Radio Now 100.9's Indy Connection with Emily Metheny.
Hello, I'm Emily Metheny, your host. This week, I had the opportunity to talk with Alice Jordan Miles, Director of Purdue Fort Wayne Behavioral Health and Family Science Institute, and Director of the Indiana Suicide Prevention Coalition. She talked with me about the emotions people are feeling now during the pandemic and how they can get help. For the second part of the show, Ashley Haynes, Director of Marketing for Keep Indianapolis Beautiful, talked with me about how the organization is still celebrating Earth Month, even though we can't get together for cleanups and other events. First, Alice explains what some of the emotions are that people are having.
A lot of people, no matter what the age is, a lot of people are feeling a sense of uncertainty, which then perpetuates a level of stress, anxiety, and just overall depression. Here in Indiana, I know up in here in northern Indiana, where I'm from, the number of days in which the sun hasn't been around has a great impact on people who generally experience or are victims of seasonal depression. And when that sun isn't around and you have a level of not knowing what tomorrow will bring, let alone next week, the stress and the anxiety is just fueled with the amount of uncertainty that we as a society are facing these days.
And it's not just people who have depression, who already have anxiety. People who would normally be considered in good mental health are feeling these feelings too.
Right. This is the time, and I think I was on a call earlier today, which, if anything has come out of the pandemic, it's the fact that I humbly believe, that there will be a little bit more compassion towards people who have mental illness or have been impacted by a mental illness in their everyday life. The impact of the stress, the anxiety, the uncertainty is impacting almost everyone to a level that it's impacting their mental fitness or their mental wellness on any given day. Saying that, I think that people understand that mental illness is a natural feeling that individuals experience, and in this case, it's more so than not. Usually, it's people who have been diagnosed or have been undiagnosed. We're living in an era in which mental illness or depression, anxiety, sadness, depression is impacting almost everyone and at every age as well.
And with the coronavirus making it so people can't go out and be with friends, and some people have been laid off or furloughed, is that adding on to all this stress that's causing loneliness and leading to different types of anxiety and depression?
Yes, absolutely. Not knowing the family finances, not being able to go to the grocery store and, get the things that perhaps was a snack or a benefit for kids doing a great chore. There's a lot of things are being cut off family budgets. And, and this is a time and an experience that many, especially among the millennials, have never experienced before. We older generation, we have 9/11 under our belt. At the time, in the midst of those days, we didn't know what tomorrow was going to bring. But 20 years later, almost 20 years later, we got through that. We made our nation. We became a nation that was more stronger, more compassionate towards one another. This too shall pass. But unfortunately, this is a first-timer for a lot of people. It's a pandemic for me is the first time for me, and I don't know what's going to bring. I'm afraid that we're all going to have to adapt to a new normal, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Change is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a matter of learning new things, coping with change, and understanding that it affects all of us. And, quite frankly, it's okay not to be okay. This is a time of sadness. We've lost a lot of people in our country due to this illness. There's a lot of isolation. One of the things I've also come to realize more so than not is the number of people who have no one. who have no one to talk to, no one to check in on them, no one to do the grocery store shopping for them. It is a time in which we as individuals need to reach out to that neighbor that we always saw, every day, but never had a conversation with. It's just a matter of being courteous, being knowledgeable. Everybody wants to be seen, especially during these times. And if we don't hear people, we don't see them, and vice versa.
And how can we go about and start making those connections? Like, if someone is nervous to actually make that first approach, what advice would you have for them?
I just think, especially when it pertains to the elderly people, as I tell my own children, treat the elderly as you wanted your grandma and grandpa to be treated. My kids are fortunate to have their grandparents live in our same town. But I would, it would be really sad that my parents weren't living in Fort Wayne. That would mean that I would have to really rely on the generosity and the compassion of their neighbors. And knowing who our neighbors are, meaning we don't see much traffic coming in and out of their house, or not very many people go and visit them. I'm sure we've made a mental note of that. If that's the case, just go over it. If it is to knock on their door and then run back to the sidewalk just to say, hey, I'm your neighbor who lives just a couple doors down. I'm going to the grocery store. Is there something I can help you with? Or, even bake a couple dozen of cookies or something. Just showing that compassion and letting them know that, you care about them. You may not necessarily talk to them or hang out with them, but you care about them, and you just doing a check-in, just seeing how things are going.
And for people who are dealing with loneliness and that anxiety, that baking could also help as not a coping mechanism per se, but help with their mental health, yeah?
Oh, yes, absolutely. At a time in which the internet has so many opportunities and so many resources out there, not only baking, but perhaps even doing puzzles. Another thing is reading books. There's a lot of audibles that are available, even free. I know that if you log on to your local neighborhood library or your community's library, if you have a library card, you can download up to 3 audibles for free at a time. Other thing is reading blogs about, maybe something that interests you, like quilting or gardening. That season is quickly upon us. There's a lot of things that are available online that you can research.
And would it be like picking up a new hobby just to help take your mind off of what's going on? What else can people do?
Not only that, there are a lot of elderly people that are in nursing homes. I know here within my church community, we have adopted a couple nursing homes around the community, and we all wrote 2 or 3 letters to the residents there. Many of them have no communication, first of all, because they don't have any family or friends that they know of that are still living or go to support them, and they have no contact with the outer world as they see it right now. It's a great way to reach out, have a pen pal, or even take it upon yourself to write letters to some of the seniors from your local high school that are not going to be able to graduate or not going to be able to experience all the great things that a senior in high school experiences. So there's a lot of great opportunities, or even writing letters to the Boys and Girls Club, maybe establishing some partnerships at this time so that when the quarantine is over and the social distancing has expired, it's an opportunity for you to volunteer at an organization that you've done some research in and you'd like to get involved with.
And specifically for the high school seniors and parents of these high school seniors, these college seniors, what can the parents or guardians do to help their child through this time?
Well, I know that having a high school senior last year myself, this is a time in which a lot of families do college visits. And unfortunately, those are no longer at this time. I know that there are a few colleges around the state that are offering virtual college tours, and which all you have to do is contact the admissions office so that they can send you the link for that college tour. Another thing is that for preparing your college student to go to college, there's a lot of shops that have online services in which you can set up how would you call it? Like a registry for those who are needing things for their dorm rooms. Start putting things like that together so that when they finally do have their party, they'll be able to include their registry link on their invitation.
That's awesome. I haven't thought about that.
Yeah. There's a lot of great things that you can think about. I know that as adults, I'm 53, so I know that I've always liked to stay away from modernization of the technology and whatnot. And we as parents have really wanted our young people to stay away from their tablets, their computers, their phones. Now I'm counting on my young people to educate me on the technology, especially because as a professor at Purdue, I have to hold my classes online using WebEx and Zoom. To me, that's very complicated, and I've had to really count on my students and my own children to educate me on the many tools and resources that these online services provide, because otherwise my classes would be hiccups or I would be hanging up on my students inadvertently. But it's a time in which we can learn from our young people in regards to the technology, because I got a really distinct feeling that after all of this is over and done with, that the new normal is going to really revolve around technology.
And what do you think some of the long-term effects on mental health will be after we get through this, what's happening this year?
Well, it's going to be different to different populations. I'm really concerned about the immigrant population, especially those who are not documented. A lot of individuals do not have access to those resources because they're not documented. They're not citizens of America. That's long term. I'm really concerned about them. Another thing I'm really concerned about is the impact of domestic violence on a lot of individuals, that because of the quarantine and self-isolation, that a lot of people have been exposed to domestic violence, and that is very traumatic. And for our young people to witness that and not talk about it, I have a grave concern with that. Along with individuals who, because of the pandemic, they have had, it has impacted their mental health, but because of the stigma and taboo around mental illness and mental health, that they will not ask for help because they're afraid they will be shunned or made fun of. So I have a lot of concern about that, but I want your listeners to understand that mental illness is just like any other illness, whether it's for 2 days, 2 weeks, or 2 years. You cannot be physically well unless you're mentally well, and vice versa. So it's very important that people understand that mental illness, mental health is real, and it's, just because your brain is broken down and people can't see it or you can't see it doesn't make it any less viable than breaking a limb.
And if someone is currently struggling with their how they're feeling, or specifically with depression and suicide, where can they find resources?
Well, first and foremost, every community in Indiana has an organization. Again, Google it if you're not familiar with it. But we have what we call systems of care. The acronym are SOCs. And what it is, it's 92 systems of care, because Indiana is broken down into 9 counties. And what they do is they're like a go-to organization that is very knowledgeable about the resources that are applicable in your community, because what may be available in Allen County may not be available in Marion County. So I would definitely reach out to your systems of care. Another organization is your local Mental Health of America, as well as the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. That number is 1-800-273-8255, and the acronym for the last four numbers is TALK. So again, it's 1-800-273-8255. Those who would rather text someone regarding their mental health crisis, or their crisis in general, they could text IN to 494949. That's the National Crisis Text Line. And then in the Marion County area, I do believe there's a organization that's called Families First, and they have a crisis line themselves that is housed and manned and answered and responded from their particular crisis line. And that number is the same one of the 1-800 number as well.
Excellent. And then I know we talked about this last September when we did the Stop the Music here with all of our stations with Radio 1. We were talking about how to ask somebody if they're doing okay. Can you talk a little bit about that before we wrap up?
Sure, absolutely. Depending on the age, you don't want to necessarily use the S word. The new S word today is suicide, because before it was sex. People always just thought that if you talk to young people about sex, they're going to go out and have sex. Well, we all knew that wasn't happening. The same thing with suicide. So using the word suicide when you're referencing or you're concerned about someone's mental health, that you think they may be thinking of harming themselves, you want to say to a younger person, instead of using the word suicide, you may want to say, Johnny, you've not been the same lately, and I'm really concerned about you. Have you ever thought of going to sleep and not waking up? That's more age appropriate to a young person if you're concerned or you think that they may harm themselves. Versus someone who is older, more mature, and you may say, have you, Johnny, you're not been the same. I know that you've expressed some concern over the days about being shut in, not being able to talk to your friends, not to be able to have your do your paper route. Are you thinking about hurting yourself? But more importantly is to understand if that particular person that you're concerned about has any access to lethal means. Because that access to lethal means makes that person more in danger at a time in which they're contemplating and taking their life. But nonetheless, never hesitate to ask someone. And more importantly, if you're very concerned about them, please don't ask them in a closed-ended question, because they could either shrug their shoulders and say, I don't know, or say no when you know in your heart and your gut that they are entertaining the thought. Make sure when you're asking that person or talking to that person, make sure you verbalize what you're seeing in them that has prompted your concern. What I mean by that is, I see you, Johnny, as only being in your room. You haven't played on your games, your video games, in over a week, and that's definitely not like you. Your friends have attempted to FaceTime you, and you've declined their calls. What's going on? Why am I seeing what I'm seeing with you? Because Johnny, therefore, can't just give you a yes or no. He or she has to explain why you're seeing what they're seeing, because therefore they have to give you an answer on what you're seeing, and then hopefully that opens that opportunity for you to further engage with them to get to the bottom of whatever's troubling them. And if that's the case, you use that opportunity to just provide them with so many resources. One of the things that I've done in the past, especially when someone is, not very, is embarrassed to admit that something they're struggling with mentally, I'll say to them, the help that I sense that you're needing is beyond my training or my knowledge. Will you allow me to dial the 1-800 suicide prevention line or the crisis line? And then as soon as they answer, I'll hand over the phone to you and I'll walk out and close the door so that you'll have that privacy. maybe there are times or incidences in which you have to take that extra step to help that person, because many times people won't get the help for themselves. You're there to encourage them and support them and let them know that not they're going to get through it, we'll get through it. Because when someone is alone, depressed, isolated, they already feel that loneliness. Therefore, you need to share and encourage or let them know that you're there for them to walk that journey of them getting help. They're not going to walk that journey by themselves.
And Alice, can I have you give the suicide prevention number one last time?
Sure. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline number is 1-800-273-8255. Again, that number is 1-800-273-8255. And if you kind of forget the last four numbers, it reads TALK. So again, 1-800-273-TALK. And the crisis text line, the National Crisis Text Line, text IN to 494949. And if any of your readers would like to get a better understanding of what happens when you send in a text to the crisis text line, go to YouTube, and the crisis text line, the National Crisis Text Line, has just posted a very informative video on what happens when a text is received in their office. It's very informative, and it lets you know that the people who are answering your text are trained individuals, and they're very compassionate and very empathetic to the needs of the people who are utilizing their services.
Excellent. Alice, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Never be ashamed to ask for help. You wouldn't be ashamed if you had a broken leg and you needed help to go to the emergency room to get on a cast. Just because you can't see your brain doesn't make it any less viable. The brain is one of the largest organs that the human body has, and we must take care of it. And lastly, please remember, you can't be physically fit unless you're mentally fit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alice. I really appreciate you taking time to talk to me today.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Ashley Haynes is the Director of Marketing for Keep Indianapolis Beautiful, and she started by telling me about what the organization normally does this time of year.
So Keep Indianapolis Beautiful is a community and environmental organization. We do work to help communities create beautiful and vibrant spaces in their neighborhoods, and that could be anything from planting trees to helping organize community litter cleanups. We help neighborhoods create pocket parks or green spaces. We have a team of youth that work to take care of trees for us in the summer, and youth that are also restoring native habitats all across the city and removing invasive plants. So we're really based in providing the residents of Indianapolis with resources and tools to help create a beautiful and healthy community for everybody to live and enjoy.
And since right now it is currently April, which is Earth Month, Arbor Days this month, typically what would you be doing right now?
Yeah, so this is actually 2020 is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day on April 22nd. So typically we're really busy in April. We were planning on being a little extra busy as kind of a celebration around the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. Since it's springtime and everyone is anxious to get outside after being indoors for most of the winter, we have a lot of volunteer projects in a typical April. So we've got tree plantings that are going on every weekend, and during the weekdays, we normally kick off our green spaces for the year, kind of putting together paths and deciding on plants, and then community cleanups every weekend. Every year we have hundreds and hundreds of communities that organize cleanups, and a lot of those happen in April. We have a really great partnership with the City of Indianapolis and the Department of Public Works, and they help provide some resources like dumpsters and packer trucks in a typical April. Since the coronavirus pandemic happened and we haven't been able to gather together in groups, we've postponed all of our projects for the month of April. We are planning on rescheduling everything. We have like 3,500 trees that we have to plant this year. We have green spaces we're going to create. We have communities that had scheduled and want to do litter cleanups that we're still going to help make those happen just later in the year. So we're really just focusing on kind of how we're going to be able to do the work the rest of the year so that the community can continue to do beautiful things and to work together in their neighborhoods.
And how can people stay up to date when everything goes back online and all the cleanups start happening, the tree planting start happening? What's the best way people can get connected?
So we'll have everything that's up to date on KIB social media. On all of the platforms, we are at KIBIORG. If you join our newsletter, you can go to our website, which is KIBI.org, and join the newsletter. It's at the very bottom of the website. Just submit your name and your email, and we'll be sending out constant updates as things get updated and changed. And in the meantime, we are hosting virtual projects. We've got a virtual litter challenge that's going on right now called #EveryLitterBit. And we're really just encouraging people to safely go outside and continue to do cleanups on their own. Wearing gloves, having a trash bag, a litter grabber, washing your hands, being careful not to touch any of the litter, which you wouldn't really want to in a normal circumstance anyhow. But just taking some extra precautions. But it is still safe to go outside and to take care of your neighborhood, the areas around your house. Maybe there's a park down the street from you. So we are encouraging people to still get outside and do like volunteering on their own.
Excellent. And also on your website, there's some educational materials that people can utilize during this time. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, so we recognize that people are at home with their kids right now doing, some cases, homeschooling for the very first time and need things to do with those kids. And anything that gets kids outside and gives them something active and physical to do with their hands where they're creating something and interacting with nature and it's more than just looking at a worksheet or working on the computer. So our director of education, Heather, has been putting together some educational resource videos on our website that you can just follow the instructions. I think she's got a nature bingo game up there that your kids can put together. You can make a specimen bracelet, kind of doing a little science class outside. But then also related to reading and writing, we have a poetry activity app where you can help your kids create a writing piece that's based on something that they see in their backyard and just inspired by nature.
Excellent. And what else can people do to be engaged with KIB and be knowledgeable what's going on in their communities?
So next week for Earth Week, we're actually doing a full week of online programming. And our goal is to give everybody those KIB type of activities of taking care of your environment and community, a way to do those at home. So we're kicking that off. We'll have a different theme or topic every day of the week, starting on Monday, April 12th, which we're going to start off with a kind of how do you create a native garden at home. So we'll have our director of native landscapes and our urban naturalists kind of talk about how do you create a garden in your own backyard. We usually come together to create community pocket parks, but you can do this at your house as well. And we'll talk about how to weed properly, how to maintain your gardens, how to identify plants that are invasive, how to remove them, what plants are good. Since we do a lot of work around litter cleanup, we'll have a couple of topics next week talking about how you can reduce waste at home. Since we're all home so much more right now, there's a lot more trash that's going into our curbside bins. So how can we help out our Department of Public Works by kind of how can we reduce the amount of trash that we put in there, talking about recycling activities that you can do at home. Water health and water quality is something that planting trees directly impacts. So we'll be talking about how you can help keep the White River and our drinking supply clean, which also includes how to clean out your storm drain, which is a really great activity to be able to go outside and do right now. Just like walk around your entire neighborhood and clean out all the storm drains. So we'll do a how-to video on that. And I'm really excited for Friday, the 24th, which is Arbor Day, because we're going to do a Facebook Live how to plant a tree in your backyard. One of our arborists is going to kind of walk you through all the steps of planting a tree at your house. We'll have some time that you can just ask the arborist questions that you have about trees in general, and then have some resource videos that you can go back and refer to when you're ready to get a tree and plant it in your yard. So I'm really excited to see all of the different ways that people are able to, work in their own green space, in their front or backyard if they have that, and if they don't, our community parks always need a good cleanup and some extra help cleaning out garden beds and taking care of them. So I'm really excited to see everything that people are doing independently, but still sharing with each other. This year is just going to be a little bit different as we do it alone but together.
And are there any social media hashtags people should be using as they're doing the virtual cleanups or doing these online classes during Earth Week?
Yeah, so hashtag every litter bit for just any litter cleanup that you're doing. We're going to be giving away local gift cards to the top 5 people that pick up the most trash over the course of the next month. And then on Saturday, April 25th, we had planned our biggest cleanup of the spring, where we were going to have like 300 or 400 volunteers all coming out to work in the North Brookside neighborhood, which we're obviously rescheduling that. So instead, we're going to do another virtual Great Indy cleanup. We did one at the beginning of the month on April 1st to kind of kick off Earth Month, and it was great. Like I could hardly keep up with the number of pictures and everything that people were sharing with us. And the hashtag to participate in the Great Indy Cleanup is hashtag Great Indy Cleanup. I'd love to be able to share any of the work that anyone is doing just by using the hashtags, and I can share all the weird trash that people find. There's some really strange things that people have found in cleanups this month.
Can you give me an example of one of the weirdest things?
I think that one of the strangest things was we had someone that found it wasn't a G.I. Joe figure or doll. It was some other sort of doll that was covered. He was wearing a moss clothing essentially. He'd been living under the dirt for so long that the moss had actually turned into clothes and was covering the doll's body. That was a pretty strange one. But we had all sorts of things. People find Chuck E. Cheese tokens. Sometimes people find bigger items like tires and things. But it's just interesting to see kind of what litter is out there.
Excellent. And that'll be on Saturday, April 25th. And that's the Great Indy Cleanup, if people want to hashtag that on social media.
Yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to add, Ashley?
I don't think so. I just really appreciate everyone that's continuing to stay involved and active. I'll say something that we have noticed over the past couple of weeks is an increase in personal protective equipment litter. I'm seeing a lot of masks and gloves and disposable wipes on the ground. So just really encouraging people to be careful when they're disposing them. I know that it's really easy to take your mask off, leave it on your lap, and then you get up out of the car and you don't even realize that it fell on the ground. So I think just we can all do a good job as a community being aware of how we're disposing of everything from our regular wrappers, takeout containers that we're using, and then any personal protective equipment that we're wearing, just to keep the community both clean and safe.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ashley.
You're welcome. Thank you.
If you want to reach out, or if you have topics you'd like me to cover, you can reach me at Metheny, that's EMETHENY, at radio-1.com. Thank you for listening, and please join me again next week. Until then, have a great week.
Radio Now 100.9's Indy Connection with Emily Metheny.